You clicked because the title pulled you in. The Viking hunter who fought beasts we don't believe existed. Tonight you meet him. A lone man named Eirik. He lived on the edge of a cold forest no one entered after dusk. Villagers feared the sounds they heard from the trees. Eirik walked toward those sounds alone. He tracked shapes no one claimed to see. He followed deep tracks that sank through thick snow. He returned with scars no one could explain. He spoke of creatures with heavy breath and eyes that glowed in firelight. People dismissed him until the night his small daughter vanished at the forest border. Eirik went in with his bow and axe. He faced what hunted them. You follow him now through cold shadows, through fear, through truth no one wanted to accept. Watch Eirik now. He steps through thick snow with his bow ready. He heard things from the trees no one believed. Low breaths, heavy steps, bones cracking. He stayed silent about the beasts he fought until the night danger touched his home. When his daughter disappeared near the forest, he followed her trail into cold dark. He walked where no villager walked. He hunted what hunted them. Stay with this. You walk beside him as he faces creatures people say never lived. Settle in now. Slow your breath. Let your shoulders drop. Let the light in your room soften. If you have a blanket, pull it close. If you sit near warmth, lean in. Tell me where you watch from. I read each place. It helps shape the next stories. If this calm night feels good, press like or subscribe in your own time. It helps these long stories reach more people who want quiet evenings. Take one more slow breath. Eirik waits in the snow. His daughter's tracks fade. The forest holds its secrets. When you are ready, we begin his path. Snow covered the ground in a thick sheet. Eirik stepped through it with slow care. His boots pressed deep marks behind him. His bow hung across his back. His axe rested in his right hand. The forest stood ahead of him. Tall trees, dark trunks, heavy branches, each branch held frozen weight. The morning felt still. The wind held back. Only the faint creak of cold wood moved through the air. Eirik stopped at the first line of trees. He listened. The forest stayed silent. He knew the silence meant something lived inside, something large. He watched for broken branches. He watched for snow pushed aside. He watched for any track wider than the foot of a man. He found marks near a stump, deep holes pressed into the snow. They stood far apart, too far for a deer, too spaced for a bear. The villagers called them nothing. They said the marks came from wind or ice. Eirik knew better. He knelt. He placed his hand on one. The edges felt sharp. The depth felt heavy. He spoke low to himself. It walked here last night. He rose. He scanned the forest. His breath formed clouds. He moved forward, each step slow, each sound clear. His ears searched for break, crack, snap. Nothing came. The forest held its breath. Eirik lived alone with his daughter, Runa. She stayed inside the longhouse this morning. She slept when he left. He watched her sleep before he stepped out. Her hair spread across the blanket, her breath soft. She asked him last night why he hunted in the forest no one entered. "You go there," she said. "Yes," Eirik said. "Why?" "Something moves there." She looked at him with wide eyes. "Does it see us?" "Yes." "Does it want us?" "I think so." Runa lowered her voice. "Will it come here?" Eirik placed his hand on her head. "Not if I watch it first." Now he walked deeper into the trees. The forest grew thicker. Branches overlapped. Snow hung between them. Marks shifted under his feet. Tracks crossed in odd lines, some thin, some wide, some heavy. Eirik followed the wide ones. They pushed snow outward as if pulled by weight no man carried. He breathed slow. He looked left. He looked right. He moved like a hunter who learned each sound long ago. His father taught him how to track elk. His uncle taught him how to move through brush. But no one taught him how to track things no one believed lived. He stepped on a fallen branch. It cracked. The sound shot through the forest. Eric froze. He lifted his axe. He waited. His heart beat fast. The forest stayed still. He moved again. The trees opened ahead. A small clearing sat between them. Snow formed a flat field there. The field held a shape in the center. A circle of bent grass under the snow. A dark stain on the ground. Eric stepped forward. He knelt. He brushed snow aside. Blood, frozen, dark. He touched it with 2 fingers. It flaked off. Fresh before the freeze, he rose. He circled the clearing. He saw more marks. Heavy prints, sharp edges, some wide, some deep. A trail led into thicker darkness. He followed the trail. The trees grew tight. Branches whipped his cloak. Snow fell from each strike. A low sound moved ahead. Not wind, not wood. A breath, slow, heavy, drawn from deep inside a large chest. Eric stopped. He lowered his head. He looked through the branches. A shape moved behind a thick trunk. A shoulder, large, covered in coarse hair. A faint glow moved near the shape. 2 points. Eyes. Eric held his breath. The creature shifted. It scraped ice from the ground with claws long enough to gouge the soil. Its breath rumbled. It pushed its head up. Eric saw part of its jawline. Thick bone. A hard ridge above the eye. The eye glowed orange in the cold light. Eric gripped his axe. He stayed still. The creature moved forward. It sniffed the air. Its breath steamed. It turned its head toward him. Eric felt its gaze strike like cold iron. He stepped back slow. His boot brushed a twig. The twig snapped. The creature let out a low sound. Not a roar, not a growl. A deep call that shook the air. Eric lifted his bow. He drew an arrow. He aimed at the head. The creature stepped forward. Snow crunched under its weight. Eric steadied his breath. He released. The arrow hit the trunk beside the creature. It struck wood with a sharp thud. The creature jerked aside. It moved faster than he expected. Too fast. It vanished behind the brush. Eric cursed under his breath. He ran forward. He reached the trunk. He saw broken twigs, fresh prints, blood smeared across the snow. He followed the trail, but after 10 steps, it vanished. The snow ahead lay smooth, no prints, no marks, no trace. The forest stood empty. He lowered his bow. His breath shook. He whispered to himself. It learned. It hides. He turned. He moved back toward the clearing. He checked the tracks again. They still stood, heavy, clear. But the tail end vanished like smoke. He stepped out of the trees and into the open. The air felt lighter here. He knelt and drew his finger through the fresh snow. The marks told him enough. The creature moved toward the northern ridge. It stayed near the high stones each winter. It left the area only when hunger pressed it. He stood. He walked back toward his home. The forest held its silence again. When he reached the village border, smoke rose from the thatched longhouses. Children pushed snow into piles. Women carried wood in wide baskets. Men repaired a fishing net near a small stream. The smell of broth drifted through the air. A few dogs ran past him. One barked at his cloak and ran off. Eirik walked across the path. People looked at him. They always looked. Some stepped aside. Some lowered their eyes. Others stared at the marks on his arms. Long scars, round bites, deep scratches. He never explained them to anyone except Runa, His neighbor, Arnvid, waved him over. Arnvid held a carving knife in one hand, a length of wood in the other. "You went to the forest," Arnvid said. "Yes. You look tense." "Something moved there." Arnvid laughed without humor. "Something always moves there." "This one watches us." Arnvid stopped carving. "You saw it?" Eric nodded. Arnvid lowered his voice. "Describe it." Eric shook his head. "Not here." Arnvid glanced around. "Then tell me this. Did you see anything close to the old stories?" "Yes," Eric said. Arnvid's face tightened. "You hunt those things alone." "Yes." "Why?" "Because they hunt us alone." Arnvid said nothing after that. Eric turned away. He walked to his longhouse. He lifted the door cover. Heat poured out. Runa sat on the floor near the fire, holding a piece of leather. She looked up and smiled. "You came back," she said. Eric sat beside her. He placed his axe near the hearth. "You stayed inside?" "Yes." "You heard anything outside?" "No." He nodded. Runa studied his face. "You look worried." Eric hesitated. "The forest holds danger, more than before." Runa lowered her eyes. "Will it come here?" Eric touched her shoulder. "Not while I stand." Runa handed him the leather. "I tried to shape it into a small pouch. I know you need one." He looked at the rough stitches. Each stitch uneven, each loop loose. But it held together. He smiled. "I use it." Runa's smile widened. "Good." Eric placed the pouch in his pack. He rose. He checked the fire. He placed another log on it. He stirred a pot of warm broth. He poured 2 bowls, one for him, one for Runa. They sat together. They ate in silence. After they finished, Runa asked, "What did you see today?" Eric took a slow breath. "A creature, large, strong, smart." Runa frowned. "Where?" "In the northern trees." She swallowed. "Did it see you?" "Yes." "Did it want to hurt you?" "I think it weighed the choice." Runa grew quiet. "Will you hunt it again?" "Yes, before it hunts us." Runa leaned against him. "Do you think the village believes you now?" "No." "Why?" "They fear things they do not see." Runa looked at the fire. "I believe you." Eric rested his hand on her back. "Thank you." Night approached. The sky outside turned darker. Snow drifted across the path. Eric stepped outside. He checked the tracks near his home. He saw no marks, no heavy prints, no deep holes. He walked toward the border of the forest. He stood there a long time. Snow coated his shoulders. The trees loomed quiet. The silence felt wrong, too even, too thick. He lifted his head. He listened. A sound moved far off. A low call, drawn out, heavy. It rolled through the trees like a slow drum. Eric whispered, "It circles." He turned back. He walked home. He entered the longhouse. He secured the door cover. He checked the latch twice. Runa sat near the fire with her blanket around her. "Father?" "You sleep near the hearth," Eric said. "Close to the light." Runa nodded. "Are you leaving again?" "Not tonight." He sat beside her. He sharpened his axe. He checked his bowstring. He laid them beside him. Runa curled against him. "Tell me a story." Eric thought for a moment. "I tell one when I was young." She nodded. "I hunted with my father. We walked through the snow. He taught me to listen. He showed me how to move quiet. One night we heard a call from the ridge. Not wolf, not bear, something else. He told me to stay behind him, but I stepped ahead. I wanted to prove strength. I made a sound. The creature heard me. It came fast. My father pushed me aside. It struck him. It threw him into the snow. I lifted his spear. I struck it. It fled. My father survived. But he never returned to the forest." Runa listened close. "Did you feel fear?" "Yes." "Do you feel fear now?" Eric nodded. Yes. Does it stop you? No. Why? Because fear shows the truth. The truth guides me. Runa rested her head on his arm. I want to be strong like you. Eric looked at her. You stay strong by knowing what lies in the dark, not by ignoring it, not by running, by facing it. Runa closed her eyes. Teach me. I teach you. Tomorrow. She drifted to sleep. Eric stayed awake for hours. He listened for sounds outside. He waited for heavy steps. None came, only quiet snow against the walls. When morning came, Runa woke early. She dressed. Eric prepared his pack. He placed the leather pouch she made inside it. Runa asked, Where do you go today? Near the ridge. I go with you. No. Why? It watches me. I do not risk you. Runa looked down. I want to see the tracks. Eric shook his head. Not yet. Runa stepped close. I follow your path one day. He nodded. One day, not now. She accepted this with a small sigh. Eric stepped outside. The air felt sharper today. The trees looked darker. Something shifted in the wind. He felt it in his bones. He walked toward the northern ridge. He passed the place where he last saw the creature. The tracks faded from last night, but new marks waited near a fallen log. Fresh, clear, heavy. He knelt. He touched them. They felt colder than the snow around them. He knew the creature moved early today. He lifted his head. He stared into the trees. He whispered, You hunt now. He stepped forward. He followed the marks. He moved quiet. He moved steady. He moved with the weight of a hunter who faced fear each day. The tracks led deeper, past thick trunks, past frozen streams, past ridges, past twisted roots. Eric found a spot where the snow lay disturbed. Something heavy rolled there. Something struggled. Sharp holes pressed into the ground. A long drag line extended through the trees. He followed it. His breath shook. His heart slammed inside his chest. He knew these marks. Something dragged something smaller, something alive. His pace quickened. He stepped into a clearing. He stopped cold. On the ground lay a small bundle of cloth, a small footprint near it, fresh, Runa's footprint. Eric felt heat rise through his body. His hand shook. He knelt. He touched the cloth. It belonged to Runa. He knew the stitch on the side. He knew the feel of the wool. He knew she wore it last night. He rose. His voice broke the silence. Runa! No answer. He ran into the trees. Eric ran through the trees with no pause. Snow burst under his boots. Branches struck his cloak. Cold air cut his throat. He pushed through it. He followed the small prints that marked the path ahead. Each print pressed shallow into the snow. Each one told him she moved fast. Too fast for safety. Too close to danger. Runa! He shouted. Only the echo answered. A thin hollow sound through the frozen air. He pushed harder. The trees closed around him. The tracks shifted left, then right. Some deep, some faint. Runa ran. She stumbled. She rose. She moved again. Eric saw drag marks near her prints. Heavy marks. The beast followed. It stayed close. It moved behind her. Its claws gouged the snow. Its weight pressed deep lines behind her path. Eric felt fear rise in him, but he forced himself forward. He passed a fallen tree. Snow covered half of it. Runa's footprints stopped beside it. Something scraped the bark. Eric knelt. He ran his hand along the marks, deep scratches, long lines. The creature reached this point. It moved fast. He stood. He called again. Runa! His voice cracked the silence. The forest gave nothing back. Eric gripped his axe. He breathed slow. He listened. Only the wind touched the branches. He followed the drag line. It led deeper. Through a narrow passage between two rock walls. Snow clung to sharp stones. The path grew thinner. Shadows thickened. Eirik stepped inside the narrow pass. He kept his shoulders tight. The walls closed around him. His breath echoed. Snow fell from the top in light streams. The dragline continued through the center. He moved until the path opened again. He stepped into a wide clearing hidden between rock slopes. Snow covered the ground in smooth layers. The wind moved across it in slow lines. The air felt thick, still, heavy. The drag marks stopped here. Eirik searched the ground. He saw broken branches. He saw deep claw marks. He saw a smear of blood on the snow. Thin, faint, not human, darker. The creature bled earlier from his arrow. It left drops near the tree. This matched that blood. He knelt. He brushed snow aside. "Runa, where did you go?" He looked at the edges of the clearing. Tracks scattered in many lines, some small, some huge. The creature circled this place. It paced. It waited. It breathed here. The snow near one tree melted in a wide patch from its heat. Eirik rose. He looked at the sky. Light faded. Clouds thickened. Snow began to fall again. The storm built faster than expected. He circled the clearing. He looked for new prints. He searched for a path Runa might have taken. Nothing at first. He moved farther. He found thin marks. Not tracks. Not claw marks. Small lines drawn in the snow. He knelt. He studied them. Runa's hand made them. She dragged her fingers through the snow as she walked. She left a sign, a line that curved twice. She learned this from him, a silent mark to show direction. Eirik stood. He followed the faint lines. They led toward a gap between two low boulders. He squeezed through. Snow brushed his sides. He stepped into a narrow slope that led up toward the ridge. He climbed. His boots slipped on ice. His hand pressed against cold stone. He pushed forward. The wind grew stronger as he reached the top. The ridge stretched wide. The trees thinned. Snow blew across open rock. The sky above held heavy clouds. He saw more small prints. Runa climbed here. She walked along the ridge. Her prints moved close to the edge. Eirik stepped carefully. He checked each mark. "Runa!" he called again. A faint sound answered. Soft, weak, from ahead. Eirik froze. He listened. The sound did not return, but he knew it. It belonged to her. He ran forward. The prints led down the far side of the ridge. The slope fell steep. Snow piled deep. He saw marks where she slid. He slid down behind her. Snow filled his boots. Sharp stones scraped his arms. He landed at the bottom and stood fast. The forest down here looked old. Thick trunks, dark bark, heavy roots twisted through the ground. The air felt warmer, too warm for this place. The snow melted in small patches. Steam rose between branches. He stepped forward. Runa's prints led deeper. They shook left and right. She felt fear. She ran without aim. Eirik followed until he reached a large fallen tree. Runa's prints stopped here. He scanned the area. Broken branches above, claw marks along the bark. Something leapt from above and landed here. The creature stood in this place. Runa fell. The prints shifted. She stood again. She moved forward. The drag marks began here. The creature grabbed her cloak. It pulled her through the trees. She struggled. She fought. She kicked. Eirik saw her heel print stamped hard into the snow. He set his jaw. He rose. He moved faster. He followed the drag line. It led into a hollow between twisted roots. The ground dipped. The air warmed more. Snow melted to wet soil. Eirik heard a sound, a low breathing, heavy, long, slow. He stepped back. He crouched. He moved around the hollow. He reached a point where the roots arched over dark ground. He saw a space beneath them. He saw movement. A figure, small, curled, Runa, her cloak torn, her hair in tangled strands, her breath quick and uneven. Eirik felt his chest tighten. He moved forward. Runa, she lifted her head, her eyes wide with fear. Father. He slid down the slope. He reached her. He pulled her close. She shook in his arms. He checked her arms, her legs, no deep wounds, no blood. She pressed her face against him. I lost you, she whispered. I found you, Eirik said. She gripped his tunic. It chased me. I know, she looked up at him. It waits. Eirik heard it then, a deep breath behind the roots. Heavy, close. The creature hid in the darkness behind them. Its breath rumbled. Its weight pressed the soil. It watched them. Eirik placed Runa behind him. He lifted his axe. He stepped away from her. He moved toward the roots. The creature shifted. Snow fell from branches above. Eirik saw part of its head through the dark. A large shape, a ridge above the eye, a jaw lined with teeth. Its breath steamed through the cracks in the roots. Eirik took one step closer. The creature growled low. Its claws scraped stone. Eirik did not move back. He tightened his grip on the axe. He spoke low. You follow my child. You leave marks on my land. You move too close. The creature pushed forward. It forced its head through the gap. Snow fell around it. Light touched its face. Eirik saw it clearly now. A long snout, thick bone, a rise above the eyes, wide shoulders, muscles under thick fur. Its eyes glowed in the dim light. Orange, sharp. Runa clung to Eirik's cloak. Father, he said nothing. He stepped forward. The creature lunged. It burst through the roots. Snow exploded upward. The ground shook. Eirik rolled aside. The creature struck the place he stood a moment ago. Its claws carved deep marks into the earth. Eirik rose. He swung his axe. The blade struck its shoulder. Thick fur softened the blow. The creature roared and swung its arm. The force threw Eirik into the snow. He slid across the ground. His axe flew from his hand. Runa screamed his name. He stood fast. Pain shot through his ribs. He reached for his knife. The creature lunged again. He dodged. The creature slammed into a tree. The trunk cracked. Snow fell in heavy sheets. Eirik grabbed a broken branch. Long, hard. He thrust it into the creature's side. The blow slowed it. The creature snarled. It turned its head toward Runa. Eirik felt ice move through his body. He charged. He tackled the creature's back. He wrapped his arm around its neck. The creature thrashed. It slammed him into a rock wall. Pain shot through him. He held tight. He dug his knife into its hide. The creature twisted. It threw him off. He hit the ground hard. Snow filled his mouth. His vision blurred. Runa cried out. Father! He forced himself up. He searched for his axe. He saw the handle near a root. He crawled toward it. The creature lumbered behind him. Its breath shook the air. Its shadow covered the snow. He reached the axe. He grabbed it. He turned, lifting it high. The creature struck first. Its claw hit his arm. His skin tore. Blood spilled. But he did not drop the axe. He swung. He hit the creature's jaw. It roared. It staggered back. Snow fell from its fur. Eirik stood. His breath came hard. His arm bled. He held the axe with both hands. The creature breathed heavy. It stepped forward. It lowered its head. Runa screamed. Stop! The creature hesitated, only for a breath. Eirik moved. He charged with all strength left. He swung the axe upward. The blade struck the creature's throat. The blow sank deep. The creature roared. It stumbled, it fell to its knees, its breath rasped, its eyes dimmed, it collapsed into the snow. The forest fell silent. Eric dropped to one knee. He held his arm. His breath shook. Runa ran to him. She pressed her hands against his chest. "You're hurt," she whispered. "I walk," Eric said. She looked at the creature's body. "Will more come?" Eric looked at the deep tracks behind them, tracks that led from the ridge, some small, some heavy, some fresh. His voice stayed low. "Yes." He lifted Runa into his arms. He rose, he staggered, but held steady. He stepped through the trees. Snow fell around them. The forest no longer felt still. It watched them. Runa whispered, "Those beasts, why do people not believe?" Eric breathed slow. Belief changes nothing. Only truth matters now. They walked toward home. The forest closed behind them. Snow pressed hard against the trees as Eric carried Runa through the forest. The cold bit into his wounded arm. Blood ran down his sleeve. Each step shook through his legs. But he held Runa close and moved with steady force. Runa buried her face against his shoulder. Her breath came fast and shaky. The forest felt different now. No silence, no stillness, only tension. The air felt heavier. The shadows moved in small shifts. Eric felt it. Something watched them. Something tracked them. He stopped once. He looked behind them. Snow drifted down. The trees stood tall and dark. But between two trunks, he saw a wide print in the snow. Fresh. Deep. Too deep for the creature he killed. Something larger walked there. He stared at the print. His jaw tightened. Runa whispered, "Father, is there another?" Eric said, "Yes." She gripped his tunic harder. "Does it follow us?" Eric studied the ground. He saw no new prints ahead, but he saw broken twigs, bent branches, heavy marks that pressed deep. He turned away. "We move fast," Eric said. He walked through the trees. His boots slid on ice. His wounded arm burned, but he did not stop. He stepped over fallen logs. He ducked under branches. Runa clung to him. They reached a slope. He walked down slow so he would not fall. Snow broke under each step. Runa lifted her head. "Father," she said, "did it come from the ridge?" "Yes." "Why?" "Hunger," she swallowed. "Will it come to the village?" "Yes." Runa felt his answer. She did not speak. Eirik stepped into a narrow pass between rocks. The sound of wind echoed there. The pass led out into lower ground. He saw lighter trees ahead. He saw open snowfields between the trunks. He moved toward them. When he reached the open ground, he set Runa down. She stood and held his hand. "You walk beside me now," Eric said. She nodded. "I stay close." He knelt beside her. He placed his hand on her cheek. "You showed strength. You survived. That means something." Her eyes lifted. "I was scared." "So was I," Eric said. "Are you scared now?" "Yes." She held his hand tighter. "We go home." Eric rose. He scanned the field. Snow stretched wide. The village lay beyond the far tree line. Smoke rose faint in the distance, a soft gray line against the sky. He walked across the field with Runa beside him. Their footprints marked a clean trail behind them. Snow fell in slow flakes. The wind lowered. The sky stayed heavy. Halfway across the field, Eric stopped again. He turned. He listened. Runa whispered, "What is it?" Eric stared toward the ridge. The trees stood still, but something moved behind them. A shape, large, slow, watching. He said nothing. He turned and moved faster. When they reached the village path, Runa broke into a small run. Eric kept pace beside her. They reached the first longhouse. Warm smoke drifted from the roof. Children played near the wall. They stopped when they saw Eric's torn arm and Runa's torn cloak. One child whispered, "What happened?" Another said, "He went into the forest." A woman near the well looked at Eric and gasped, "Your arm." Eric walked past her. He did not slow. He did not want to speak yet. The woman called after him. "What hunts you?" Eric said. "Close your doors tonight. Keep your fires strong." The woman's face drained of color. She hurried into her home. Eric and Runa reached their longhouse. He lifted the door cover. Warmth touched their faces. Runa ran inside. Eric followed. He sat near the fire. He pulled off his torn sleeve. Blood soaked the cloth. The wound opened across his arm in a long line. Runa fetched a bowl of warm water. She placed it beside him. "I clean it," she said. Eric nodded. She dipped a cloth in the water and pressed it to his arm. He let the pain rise. He let it pass. Runa worked slow. Her hands shook. He placed his hand over hers. "You did well," he said. Her breath steadied. She washed the wound. She wrapped it with cloth from a small chest near the wall. When she finished, she sat beside him. "Father, the creature, it chased me from the ridge, but it did not grab me. It only tore my cloak." Eric looked at her. "It wanted to drive you." "Drive me?" "Yes." "Where?" "Into the hollow, where it felt strong, where it waited." Runa's breath caught. "So it hunted." "Yes," Eric said. She lowered her voice. "Then why did it not take me?" Eric looked at the fire. "Because something stopped it." Runa frowned. "What stopped it?" Eric said nothing. He stared at the flames. Runa leaned her head on his arm. "I do not understand," Eric said. "Something watched the creature, something larger, something it feared." Runa grew still. "Another beast?" Eric nodded. "Yes," she whispered. "Why do they come now? Hunger, cold, deep winter. And people say they do not exist." "Yes." Runa looked up. "Do we tell the village?" Eric nodded. "Tonight, before dark." They rested for a short time. Eric drank broth. Runa warmed her hands. The fire cracked. The longhouse dimmed as the afternoon passed. When Eric rose again, he strapped his axe to his waist. He placed his hand on Runa's shoulder. "You stay here," he said. Runa shook her head. "I want to go." "You stay." She stepped in front of him. "You found me because I left a mark. I learn from you. Let me stand with you." He studied her face. She looked steady, strong, ready. He weighed the danger. He weighed her strength. He gave one nod. "You stay beside me," he said. She smiled small. They stepped outside. The sky darkened. Snow drifted in thicker flakes. Villagers walked toward the meeting hall. Word spread fast. Eric saw men and women whisper. He saw their faces sharpen with worry. Runa walked close to him. She held his cloak. When they reached the hall, Eric pushed the heavy door. Heat met them. The room filled with villagers. The chieftain stood near the hearth. Arnvid stood beside him. Others lined the walls. The chieftain said, "Eric, you walk into the forest more than any man. Today you return with wounds, and your daughter with fear. Speak." Eric stepped forward. Runa stayed behind him. Eric raised his voice so all heard. "I followed tracks this morning. I found creatures no one here believes. One followed my daughter. One dragged her. I killed it." A murmur spread across the hall. Arnvid whispered, "He killed it?" Eric continued, "The creature stands larger than a man. It moves fast. It climbs. It watches. It waits. It hunts." An older woman said, "These stories return every winter." "You ignore them every winter," Eric said. She shrank back. The chieftain lifted his hand. "Show the wound." Eric pulled back the cloth. Gasps moved through the room. Arnvid stepped closer. No bear makes a cut like that, Eric nodded. No bear, no wolf, a man near the back spoke. Where did you find the beast? Eric answered. Near the ridge. Another man asked, Are there more? Yes. Fear rippled through the hall. Some stepped back, others crossed their arms. Runa moved closer to her father. The chieftain said, Describe it. Eric spoke slow. Wide shoulders, heavy jaw, thick bone above the eyes, long fur, quick steps, claws long as a finger. It breathes like a bull. It thinks. It watches. The hall fell silent. Arnvid said, Do you know how many? Eric looked at the floor. At least 2. One I killed, one larger. A woman near the wall whispered, Larger? Eric nodded. I saw its print today. It follows. Fear tightened the room. The chieftain stepped toward Eric. How close? He asked. Eric answered, Close enough to watch. The chieftain drew in a slow breath. Then we must act. Villagers stepped forward. Some held axes, some held spears, some held no weapons at all, but stood ready. Arnvid pointed toward the door. We guard the village border tonight, Eirik said. Not enough. It circles the ridge. It approaches from the north. It watches for weakness. The chieftain asked, What do you suggest? Eric looked around. His voice stayed even. We build fires along the forest edge, high fires, bright flames. The creature avoids flame. It fears heat. We keep all children inside. We keep the hall ready. We watch for movement. We listen for heavy breath. Runa whispered. Father, Eric placed his hand on her shoulder. The chieftain nodded slowly. We follow this plan. The hall stirred. People moved. Men gathered wood. Women prepared torches. Children left with older villagers. Arnvid approached Eirik. You hunted those things alone. Now we stand beside you. Eric gave a short nod. Stay close to the fire. Do not chase it. Arnvid looked troubled. Does fire keep it away? For a time, Eirik said. Runa whispered. What if it tests us? It will, Eric said. Arnvid stepped back. We begin now. The villagers poured out of the hall. Snow fell harder. The sky darkened. Fires rose along the forest border. Flames climbed high. Smoke drifted through the air. Sparks floated in the wind. Eric stood behind the flames. Runa beside him. Arnvid to his left. Other men and women formed a line across the border, their faces tense, their breaths visible. The fire crackled. Snow hissed when it touched the flames. Runa whispered, Father, I hear something. Eric listened. A low sound moved through the trees. Not footsteps, not wind. A breath, heavy, slow, drawn from a wide chest. Eric gripped his axe. He stepped closer to the fire. The villagers followed his movement. The sound grew louder. Then silence. Then a deep call rolled through the forest. A sound heavier than the creature he killed. A sound that spread through the trees like a slow wave. Some villagers stepped back. Runa pressed against Eric's side. It knows we stand here. Yes, Eric said. The forest shifted. Snow fell from branches. Something large moved behind the first row of trees. Eric saw a shape, a head, taller than the first creature, shoulders wide, eyes brighter. Orange light glowed through the trees. The creature stepped forward enough to show part of its frame. It stopped at the edge of the firelight. The flames flickered across its fur. Its breath steamed. Its eyes locked on Eric. Eric raised his axe. He did not step back. The creature lowered its head. It studied him. It studied the flames. It studied the villagers. Arnvid whispered, Why does it watch you? Runa whispered, Because it remembers the one he killed. Eric said, Because it knows me. The creature exhaled slow. Steam lifted in long lines. It turned its head to the left. It turned to the right. It stepped closer. The villagers raised their weapons. Some shook, some held firm. The flame crackled, sparks rose. The creature blinked. It lifted its nose. It smelled the air. Then it stepped back into the trees. Runa whispered, "Father, is it gone?" Eric said, "No, it circles." Arnvid looked pale. "Will it attack tonight?" Eric stared into the forest. He watched shadows shift. He heard the low breath move from one side to the other. He answered with slow certainty, "Yes." Snow thickened until the forest turned into shifting white shapes behind the fire wall. The flames rose high. Sparks lifted into the air. Villagers stood in a long, uneven line. Some held spears, some held axes, some held torches. Their breath came out in shaky clouds. Eric stood at the center. Runa stayed close beside him. Arnvid took the position near his right. The chieftain stood on his left with a shield in hand. The forest remained quiet for a long moment. Too quiet. Eric listened. He heard the crack of frozen branches. He heard snow sliding from heavy limbs. But behind those sounds, he sensed something else. Something slow, something heavy. Runa tugged on his cloak. "Father, do you hear it?" He nodded. "Yes." Arnvid lowered his spear to the snow. His hand shook. "Where does it come from?" "Everywhere," Eric said. A man at the far end of the line whispered, "I see it." Eric turned. The man pointed to the left side of the forest border. Shadows moved behind the trees. A low breath rolled through the air. The creature stepped out enough to show its head. Then it moved back again. It circled. Another villager called, "It stands behind me now." The villagers tightened their formation. Torches burned bright. Firelight flickered across the snow. Runa looked up at Eirik. "The beast knows we watch." "It tests our line," Eric said. Arnvid swallowed hard. "How close will it come?" "As close as the fire allows." The chieftain raised his shield. "Hold steady." The villagers planted their feet. Flames cast light across their faces. The snow reflected the glow. The forest's shadows deepened. A low call rose again, deeper than before, so deep it shook the ground under their boots. Runa stepped closer to Eric. "It feels larger at night." "That is because it lets you feel it," Eric said. A heavy thud broke the silence. Then another. The creature walked with purpose now. Each step cracked ice. Each shift of weight pressed deep into the snow. The trees trembled. A branch snapped. Eric raised his axe. "It comes." Villagers lifted spears. Some whispered prayers. Others grit their teeth. The creature appeared at the border, full form. Its shoulders reached above the lower branches. Its fur hung in thick lines. Its chest rose and fell with slow breaths. Its eyes glowed orange. Its jaw flexed. It looked at the entire line. It took a slow step forward. Torches flickered. Some villagers stepped back. Eric did not. The creature pressed closer. It stopped just at the edge of the firelight. Flames touched its fur. It lowered its head. It sniffed the air. Eric stepped forward. "You hunted my child." The creature's gaze locked on him. It let out a slow rumble. Arnvid whispered, "It knows your voice." "It remembers," Eric said. The creature leaned back. It inhaled. Then it lunged. Eric shouted, "Hold the line!" The villagers tensed. But the creature did not cross the flames. It charged the fire itself. Snow exploded under its steps. The flames roared, heat surged. The creature jerked back with a snarl. It circled to the right. It rushed the fire again. It pulled back again. "It looks for weakness," Eric said. The chieftain braced his shield. "Does it find any?" Eric scanned the line. A few villagers stood too far back. A gap formed near the far right. Eric pointed. There! The creature noticed at the same moment. It sprinted toward the gap. Snow flew behind it. Eric ran. Arnvid followed. Runa stayed where she stood, eyes wide. Eric reached the gap and slammed his axe shaft into the snow. He grabbed a torch from a villager. He held it high. Firelight poured across the ground. The creature skidded to a stop. It roared. It reared up on its hind legs. Its shadow stretched across the snow. Villagers thrust spears toward its chest. The creature struck downward. Spears snapped. Men fell back. Eric threw the torch at its face. Flames brushed its jaw. It recoiled. It shook its head. Its breath came out in a cloud of steam. Arnvid yelled, "It fears flame!" The creature circled again. It moved fast. It looked for a new weakness. Runa ran toward Eirik. "Father, stay back!" he shouted. She stopped mid-step. She raised both hands to warm them near a torch. Her small voice shook. "It wants the line to break," Eirik growled. "It will not." The creature stopped moving. It lowered its head. It pressed its claws into the snow. It stayed still. Too still. Eric felt the shift. Something changed. He looked deeper into the forest. He saw nothing at first. Then snow fell from a branch with no wind. A second shadow appeared behind the trees. Then a third. Shapes shifted in the dark. Arnvid stepped back. "There are more!" Eric's breath tightened. "Yes!" the chieftain shouted. "Hold the line!" Villagers panicked. Some stepped back. Some raised torches higher. Children cried from the longhouses behind them. The first creature roared. The sound thundered across the field. The second creature answered. Its call shook the fire. A third joined them. The forest trembled. Runa whispered, "Father, they surround us." Eric looked into her eyes. "Stay behind me." The first creature charged again, straight toward Eric. Eric braced his feet. He lifted his axe. Heat blasted against his face from the fire. Snow sprayed up as the creature's claws tore through it. It lunged over the flames. Eric swung. The axe bit into its shoulder. The creature roared in pain. It fell back on the other side. Arnvid thrust his spear into its side. The creature snapped the spear in two. It swung its claw. Arnvid fell. Eric ran forward. The creature rose again. It struck Eric across the chest. Pain shot through him. His breath left him for a moment. Runa screamed, "Father!" Eirik stumbled, but held his axe. The creature charged again. It forced its weight against the fire wall. Logs shifted. Sparks flew. Flames bent sideways. Villagers screamed. The creature pushed again. The fire weakened. "Hold it!" Eric shouted. The chieftain shoved a new log into the flames. Another villager thrust a torch toward the creature's face. It snarled and stepped back. But the second creature moved now. It circled behind the trees. It pushed snow aside. It tested the far end of the fire wall. Villagers shouted warnings. The fire there burned lower. Eirik yelled, "Strengthen that end!" Men ran with torches. Women carried logs. Children hid in doorways. The second creature lunged at the weakened flame. The villagers thrust torches. The creature recoiled, but stayed close. It moved left, right. It tested for a gap. Eric looked back toward the first creature. It had backed away, but watched with steady rage in its eyes. He knew they planned together. He stepped to Runa. He placed a hand on her head. "Inside the hall, now." She shook her head. "I stay." He lowered his voice. "Go." She hesitated. Tears filled her eyes. "I do not want to leave you." "You return when I call," Eric said. She nodded and ran toward the hall. The creatures struck again, both at once. One hit the left side of the fire wall. The other hit the right. Flames swayed, snow burst upward. The line broke near the end. A villager fell back. His torch rolled into the snow. The creature pushed through the gap. Screams rose. Eirik charged. He crashed into the creature's side. His axe struck its leg. The creature roared. Arnvid grabbed its arm with both hands. The creature threw him aside. It turned its head toward a group of villagers huddled near the hall. Eirik shouted, "Here!" The creature swung back toward him. Eirik raised his axe. He blocked a strike. The creature's strength pushed him back. His boots scraped the snow. He struck again. The axe glanced off bone. The creature bit at him. He dodged. It swung its claws. He ducked. He thrust his axe into its ribs. The creature roared. Eirik twisted the axe. The creature reeled back. It stumbled. Eirik did not stop. He struck again and again. Each blow slowed it. Each blow drove it back toward the flames. The creature fell against the fire. It screamed, its fur lit. It writhed. It rolled into the snow. Steam rose. The second creature roared in response. It leapt into the open. Torches thrust forward. Flames forced it back. It circled. It paced. It watched. The villagers gathered tighter. Their line regained shape. The chieftain raised his shield again. Arnvid limped, but returned to position. Runa watched from the hall doorway, tears on her cheeks. The second creature did not retreat. It lowered its head. It breathed low. Eirik stepped forward. He met its gaze with steady weight. He said, "You hunted us. Now we stand." The creature roared. It lunged. Eirik braced his axe. Then a sound came from the forest. A long, deep call. Not from the creatures. Stronger. Older. Heavy enough to shake the ground. Both creatures froze. Eirik looked toward the trees. A shape shifted behind deep shadows. Taller than both creatures. Broader. Slow. Watching. Arnvid whispered, "There is another." Eric's breath tightened. "Yes." The new shape stepped closer. Snow fell from branches as it approached, but it did not attack. It only watched. It studied the village. It studied Eirik. The remaining creature backed away. It lowered its head. It retreated into the trees. The new shape retreated with it. Silence returned. Only the fire cracked. The chieftain breathed out. "Are we safe?" Eirik shook his head. "We are not safe. Not yet." Runa ran to him. She held his arm. "What was that last one?" Eirik looked toward the forest. "The one they follow?" The firewall hissed as snow touched it. The villagers stood in shaken silence. The forest watched. The firewall burned through the night. The flames rose high. Smoke drifted over the village in slow lines. The creatures retreated into the forest, but their presence stayed close. Eirik felt it. Runa felt it. The villagers felt it. Fear settled over the snow like a second winter. Eirik stood near the main fire. His arm throbbed. His chest burned from the strike he took earlier. Runa held his hand. Arnvid sat on a fallen log with his broken spear. The chieftain walked along the line, checking torches and logs. No one slept. Runa whispered, "Father, what happens now?" Eirik kept his eyes on the forest. "They wait." "Why?" she asked. "To see if we weaken." Arnvid looked up. "Does the largest one return?" "Yes," Eirik said. "It leads the others." The chieftain stopped near them. "Eirik, how many?" "At least 3, Eirik said. "One is larger than both we saw tonight." The chieftain nodded slow. "It stood in the dark. It watched." "Yes," Eirik said. "Why did it not attack?" the chieftain asked. "It measures us," Eirik said. "It tests fire. It tests fear." The chieftain looked at the flames. "What does it decide?" "That depends on us," Eirik said. Snow drifted through the air. The cold deepened. Torches hissed. The forest loomed silent again. The moon rose behind thin clouds. The villagers pulled cloaks tight. Runa leaned against Eric. "When will the next attack come?" "When fire weakens," Eric said. The chieftain called out, "Gather more wood. We do not let the flames fall." Villagers ran to bring logs. They stacked them high. The fire surged brighter. Sparks rose in long trails. Hours passed. The night stretched long and harsh. The forest stayed silent. The villagers hoped the creatures left. But Eric knew better. Runa's breathing grew heavy. She drifted into sleep. Eric lifted her. He carried her toward the hall. The chieftain stepped with him. "You rest her," the chieftain said, "but return fast." Eric nodded. He stepped inside the hall. He laid Runa on a blanket near the hearth. She stirred, but did not wake. Eric brushed her hair from her face. "You stay here," he whispered. He stood to leave. Her eyes opened. "No," he knelt. "You rest." "I stay with you," she said. He touched her cheek. "I need your strength tomorrow. You sleep now?" Her eyes softened. "I come when I wake." He nodded and stood. Outside, the night hit him with cold air. He returned to the fire line. Arnvid approached him. "Do you know why they hunt the village?" Arnvid asked. "Hunger drives the smaller ones," Eric said. "But the large one hunts for order." "Order?" Arnvid frowned. "It chooses who lives on its land," Eric said. "It sees us as trespassers." Arnvid swallowed. "Then it comes until we fall?" "Not if we stand stronger than it expects," Eric said. Before Arnvid replied, the forest shifted. Eric froze. A low, heavy breath rolled through the trees. The sound spread wide. Every villager turned toward it. The chieftain shouted, "Positions!" Eric raised his axe. The fire crackled. Snow fell faster. A shadow moved behind the first row of trees, then another, then a third. Eric counted 3 shapes moving in a slow circle. They stepped from tree to tree, careful, quiet. Runa's voice came from behind him. She stood in the doorway of the hall. "Father," she whispered. "Inside," Eric said. She shook her head. She walked toward him. "I stay with you." He wanted to command her, but her eyes held no fear now, only resolve. He said, "Stay behind me." She nodded. The forest broke open. The first creature charged the fire wall. Flames surged. Snow exploded under its feet. Villagers held torches. Eric struck its arm as it lunged. The creature snarled and pulled back. The second creature attacked the opposite side. It swiped at the flames. Torches shook in villagers' hands. The third creature stayed deep in the shadows. It did not attack. It paced. It waited. The largest one. Eric watched it. It watched him. Their eyes locked. He felt the weight of its gaze. Cold, focused, intelligent. Arnvid shouted, "The first one breaks through!" The creature shoved its weight against the fire. Logs shifted. Flames bent low. The beast forced its shoulder through. Villagers stepped back. Eric sprinted. He grabbed a burning log from the fire. Sparks struck his cloak. He thrust the burning log into the creature's face. The creature roared and stumbled. Arnvid speared its leg. It pulled back into the trees. The second creature lunged at the firewall. It struck the flames with its claws. Fire scattered. The villagers hurried to rebuild it. The largest creature stepped closer. Its head rose above the lower branches. Its eyes glowed bright. It breathed slow, heavy. Steam poured from its mouth. Runa trembled behind Eric. "That one is older." "Yes," Eric said. "It thinks," she whispered. "Yes," Eric said again. The creature lifted its head. It let out a call. Low, long, deep enough to shake snow from the trees. The other 2 creatures stopped. They backed away. The leader stepped forward alone. Arnvid whispered, It challenges you. Eric nodded. Yes. How do you know? Arnvid asked. Eric did not answer with words. He stepped forward. He stood alone in front of the fire. He held his axe high. He stared into the creature's eyes. Runa whispered, Father, no. Eric took another step. The creature lowered its head. It moved closer to the flames. Snow cracked under its feet. Eric shouted, Here! I stand here! The creature roared. Its breath shook the air. Then it leapt. It crashed through the flames. Fire burst around it. Sparks shot into the sky. Villagers scrambled back. Arnvid shouted. The chieftain raised his shield. The creature smashed into the ground. Snow flew in a cloud. It rose. Eirik swung his axe. The blow hit its shoulder. The creature barely felt it. It struck him with its arm. He flew backward. He hit the snow hard. His breath left him. Runa screamed his name. The creature charged Eirik. He rolled aside. Its claws ripped the snow where he lay moments earlier. Eric tried to stand. Pain struck his ribs. He pushed through it. The creature swung. Eric dodged. He struck its leg. His axe bit into muscle. The creature roared. It kicked him. He slammed into a post of the firewall. Sparks scattered. Arnvid rushed forward with a torch. He thrust it at the creature's face. The creature turned and struck him. Arnvid fell. His torch rolled. Runa ran toward Eirik. Father! Eric reached for his axe. The creature stepped between them. Run! Eric shouted. Runa stopped. She stood frozen in fear. The creature turned toward her. Eric felt his heart stop. He pushed himself up. His legs shook. His chest burned. He charged the creature with a shout that split the air. Here! The creature turned. Eirik drove his axe into its neck. The blade sank deep. The creature roared. It swung its arm. The blow hit Eric in the side. He stumbled, but held the axe. The creature thrashed. It tried to shake him off. He held tight. He twisted the blade. Blood poured onto the snow. The villagers joined the attack. Torches struck the creature. Spears thrust. Men shouted. The creature fell to one knee. Eric pulled the axe free. He struck again. This time, the creature dropped. It landed on its side. Its breath slowed. Its eyes dimmed. Snow settled over its fur. Silence. Only fire crackled. Runa ran to Eric. She wrapped her arms around him. He held her close. Arnvid limped toward them. The chieftain stood nearby. The villagers gathered around the fallen creature. Their fear shifted into awe. The chieftain spoke first. It hunted us. It threatened our home. You ended it. Eric shook his head. We ended it. Together. He looked toward the forest. The other two creatures watched from the shadows. Their eyes glowed, but they did not attack. They stepped backward, slowly, carefully. They retreated into the dark. Runa whispered. They leave. Eric nodded. The leader fell. They follow new paths now. Arnvid leaned on his broken spear. Will they return? Not tonight, Eric said. But hunger brings them back one day. The villagers murmured among themselves. The chieftain said, We strengthen the borders tomorrow. We guard the ridge. We prepare. Eric nodded. Yes. Runa looked up at him. Father, did we win? Eric lowered his voice. We survived. She leaned her head against him. Snow drifted around them. The fire warmed their faces. The night felt long, but safer, for now. Dawn pushed through thin clouds. Weak light touched the village. Smoke lifted from the longhouse roofs. The fires along the forest border burned low but steady. Snow drifted in soft lines across the open ground. Eric stood at the edge of the fire wall. His breath rose in calm clouds. His wounds ached, his ribs throbbed, but he stood straight. Runa held his cloak from behind. She pressed close to his side. Her eyes scanned the forest with sharp focus. She slept only a few hours, but she moved with purpose now. Arnvid approached with a bandage around his chest. His limp improved since the night before. He held a new spear in his hand. The chieftain walked toward them as well. Others followed. Eric kept his gaze on the trees. They left, but not far. Arnvid nodded. I heard them at dawn, one call, then nothing. The chieftain looked troubled. Are they wounded? Yes, Eric said, but they heal fast. Runa looked up. Do they fear the village now? Not fear, Eric said. Respect. Only hunger brings them back. They wait in the deep forest. Arnvid stepped forward. Do we hunt them? No, Eric said. Not today, not tomorrow, not this season. The chieftain crossed his arms. Why not? We hunt one, Eric said. We win, but if we hunt them all, more follow from the north. They come in numbers we do not match. Arnvid frowned. Then what keeps us safe? Strength, Eric said, and fire. The villagers formed a loose circle around them. Men, women, children, elders, all listened. Eric rarely spoke to the village like this, but now they looked to him. He said, We build a high wall of logs along the forest path. We place torches at each point. We keep watch in shifts. We store dried meat for storms. We keep the border bright each night. We stay stronger than their hunger. The chieftain nodded. I agree. A villager asked, What if more appear? They watch the leader, Eric said. The leader fell. They step back. They search for new ground. Runa tugged on Eric's cloak. Father, you said one followed from the ridge. Does it remain near? Yes, Eric said. I sense it, the villagers murmured. The chieftain looked at Eric. What do we do about that one? We leave it, Eric said. It stays away if we stay steady. Arnvid cleared his throat. You speak as if you know their thoughts, Eric said. I tracked them for years. I saw their habits. They follow rules. They test strength. They choose ground. A woman asked, Do they know fear? Yes, Eric said. They fear fire and loud unity, but only if we hold firm, Runa whispered. Last night we held firm. Eric placed his hand on her shoulder. Yes. The villagers began to disperse. Some went to gather wood. Some repaired broken beams. Some returned to their longhouses. The chieftain and Arnvid stayed with Eirik. The chieftain said, You lead the border now. I do what must be done, Eric said. You guide us, the chieftain said. Your knowledge keeps us alive. Eric looked toward the forest. The forest changes with each winter. We must change with it. Arnvid nodded. Then we start today. They walked to the center of the village. Men prepared sleds of logs. Women packed moss and tar to seal cracks in the new fences. Children carried small sticks for torches. Runa helped gather thin branches. She followed Eric everywhere. Eric checked the work. He tightened ropes. He raised support beams. He sharpened stakes. He measured distances between torches. Runa fetched tools. Arnvid carried logs. The chieftain directed villagers to their places. Hours passed. The sun rose higher. The cold eased slightly. Snow fell in soft flakes. The forest remained still. By midday, the new border wall rose along the tree line. Thick logs stacked and bound. Stakes lined the base. Torches marked every 10 steps. A clear path ran behind the wall for guards. Runa stood on one of the logs. She looked toward the forest. It feels different now. How? Eric asked. Less dark, she said. Less heavy. That is strength, Eric said. Arnvid leaned on his spear. Will they test us again soon? No, Eric said. They test when weakness shows. Today, they see no weakness. The chieftain approached with a bundle of dried fish. We prepare a winter stockpile. We set guards for 3 nights. After that, we rotate. Eric nodded. Do so. Runa tugged his sleeve. Father, I want to see the ridge again. Not now, Eric said. When? She asked. When the forest quiets for days, Eric said. Not sooner. She accepted this with a slow nod. Afternoon settled in. The villagers finished their work. They returned home to prepare meals. Smoke drifted from longhouses again. Children laughed faintly. The weight of fear eased. Eric and Runa walked the border one last time. The sun dipped low. Shadows stretched long. The firewall crackled again with new logs. Torches glowed bright. Runa looked toward the forest. Father, what if the large creature returns alone? It thinks before it moves, Eric said. It watches us. If we stay steady, it moves elsewhere. Why did it challenge you? She asked. Because I tracked them, Eric said. Because I knew their trails. Because it sensed threat. She looked up at him. Do you still track them? He looked at the trees. I track everything that touches this village. Runa's eyes softened. I want to learn. You will, Eric said. But tracking begins with quiet and patience and listening. She tilted her head. I listen now. Eric nodded. Good, then hear this. He pointed to the forest. The wind moves from the north and bends branches. But when creatures move, they push weight. They disturb snow. They breathe heavy. They scrape bark. They act with purpose. Listen for that. Runa closed her eyes. She waited. She listened. She shook her head. Only wind. Good, Eric said. Then the forest rests. Runa smiled small. They walked back toward the village center. Women prepared broth in pots over open flames. Men sharpened spears. Children played beside the hall. Arnvid and the chieftain spoke near the new wall. When they saw Eric approach, the chieftain asked, Do we face more danger tonight? Not tonight, Eric said. Arnvid exhaled. Good. Runa tugged Eric's arm. Can we rest now? Eric smiled, faint. Yes. They returned to their longhouse. Eric pushed the door cover aside. Warm air met them. Runa stepped inside first. Eric followed. He shut the cover behind them. The hearth glowed. The room held quiet calm. Runa sat near the fire. Eric sat beside her. He lifted his injured arm. The wound throbbed less. She touched the bandage. Does it hurt? She asked. Yes, Eric said. But you stand strong, she said. He nodded. Strength is not the absence of pain. It is walking with it. She leaned against him. I want to grow strong too. You will, Eric said. They ate warm broth. They rested against the hearthstones. Outside, the village quieted as night approached. Torches flickered along the forest edge. Voices drifted low. Snow fell in slow flakes. Runa lifted her head. Father, will the creatures return next winter? Yes, Eric said, if hunger drives them. What do we do then? She asked. We stand again, Eric said, but stronger, with better walls, with more fire, with steady hearts. She nodded. I stand with you. Eric placed a hand on her shoulder. And I guide you. They sat in silence. The flames cast warm light on their faces. The longhouse creaked softly. The night grew calm. Runa whispered, Father, why do people pretend these creatures never lived? Fear blinds, Eric said. Some truths feel heavy, hard. People choose lighter stories. Do we tell them the truth? She asked. We show them, Eric said, through strength, through action. Runa closed her eyes. I understand. Eric rested his arm around her. Snow fell outside. The forest watched, but stayed distant. For now, hours passed. The village settled. Eric stood once more and checked the border through the narrow window slit. The torches burned bright. No shadows moved. No breath broke the air. He returned to Runa. She already slept. He lay beside her. The warmth of the fire wrapped around them. He closed his eyes. He let the weight of the long night settle. He let the calm of survival reach him. He listened to the fire. He listened to the quiet. And for the first time in many nights, he slept. You sit now in the quiet after the storm. Eric rests. Runa breathes steady. The village stands stronger than before. The creatures retreat into deeper woods, waiting for seasons ahead. Etstikekti, new tale waits for you soon. One with winter paths, hidden tracks, and the strength of those who guard their homes in silence. Before you leave, take one slow breath. Let your shoulders soften. A free guide to simple Viking daily life waits in the next video. Thank you for staying until the final moment. The next story approaches with calm steps.